Welcome to my channel, guys. So I started this channel, Santana Travels, basically because I travel a lot. I've gotten a lot of questions about many of my travels and all my different destinations, so I figured I might as well just address it in a channel so everyone can just share it and share a bit of my knowledge from all my personal travels. So basically what I'm going to do on this travel, I'm going to vlog all my different destinations on my different channels, on my different travels, and then as well any questions that you guys have. If I realize I keep getting a lot of the same questions, I'll do this is gonna end up being a Q&A, so I'll just do another one of these, and then if I get a lot of, I guess, the same requests, I'll also try and make more videos like this, kind of just sitting down and addressing all those questions and stuff like that. So this first one is just an introductory, I guess, video, and also I'm gonna do a little Q&A for common questions I've had since like my past trips to Iceland, to Bali, to Malaysia, to Thailand, stuff like that. So I'll also address those questions as well. So I kind of wrote down the questions and wrote down my answers, because I wanted to make sure I got everything, I didn't leave anything out. So just to preface everything, I've never traveled solo. I'm not a solo traveler. I usually always travel with someone, and also I don't set budgets for my trip. For my trips, I just pick whatever's cheapest. I pick a destination, I choose the cheapest flight. Obviously, I try to go for the cheapest flight, I try to go for the cheapest stay, but I don't have a set budget that I typically work with. I kind of just choose whatever's cheap, and hopefully it's just a cheap trip. So let me just preface with that, so I don't want anyone to like come back and say, oh, blah blah blah. I don't have a budget. I never travel with a budget. I just spend what I spend and hope it's cheap. So first, one of the main questions that I get is, how am I able to travel so much? That's probably my #1 question. So first, when I book my trips, I almost always book solo. So I usually pick where I want to go, and then I book my trip by myself, and then after the trip, like I'll book my flights, for instance, and then after I'll ask around family, friends, be like, hey, I'm going here this day, do you want to come? So what I realized is a lot of people actually won't book a trip unless they have someone else to go with them. I'm the complete opposite. I'll book by myself. I plan every trip solo, and then after the fact, I'll be like, hey, do you want to come? If I get someone, better. If I don't, it'll be a solo trip. But as I mentioned, I've never taken a solo trip, so I always end up having someone to go with me. Another question, I made sure I wrote everything down for this one. This is one of the top questions that I get. How do you find cheap travel? So for me, I book ahead depending on the trip, depending on where I'm going. I book ahead. Depending on the trip depends how far ahead I book. So for my birthday in June, I already booked my flight since October, so that's really far ahead. So that's probably the only trip I actually paid for and booked already. Even though I have all my trips planned, I know around how much I'm spending for each trip. Like, I did my research for all the trips I want to do in 2020, but I haven't booked them. So one of the things to find cheap travel is to plan ahead. So at least look at what the prices are going to be for the places you want to go. Look at flights, look at the stay, look at kind of plan your itinerary ahead of time so you know what you want to do, how much everything is, and stuff like that. So one of the search for travel incognito. So as you know, when you are looking, you tend to look at a bunch of different sites. Always search incognito or private mode, private browser, whatever you guys call it, depending on the laptop that you have. So always search incognito. That's what I do as well. So the search engines that you use don't save your information, so they don't know that you're looking for travel. You also save money that way. What I realized as well, always sign up, always become a member for everything. So I'm a member for Expedia, I'm a member for hotels, I'm a member for booking.com, hotels.com, sorry, and booking.com. You actually get stuff for cheaper instead of ordering or like buying something as a guest. They give you member special prices, and they also give you member and special discounts and deals around certain times. So I realize with that, it's easy to take advantage of. And of course, you get to accumulate points, and then you get to use the points for travel. With Expedia, it'll be whether if you want to use it for flight or hotel, anything like that, you can use it for travel in the future. Hotels.com, I believe that you get a free night depending on how many points you accumulate. Booking.com, I'm not 100% sure, but either way, you get to accumulate points, and then you can use it for something in the future. So another one, that a way to travel cheap, I guess, would be, I don't always stay in hotels. I'm almost always staying in Airbnb for almost all of my stays. For me, it's just the cheapest option, and Airbnb has an option where you can book now, pay later. Also with booking.com, they have an option where you can just book, reserve, and you can pay at the hotel. But I almost always stay with Airbnb, to be completely honest, because one, you can find a lot of really nice places for cheap there, and I like to be cheap. And then as well, I don't use hotel services. Like, I don't get my room cleaned every day. I almost never talk to the concierge or ask anything like that, because I plan on my stuff ahead of time. So I don't really feel like I need the full services of a hotel. And like, when I travel, I bring my own fitted sheets, I bring my own pillowcases, so like I don't really have to worry about that stuff. Like, even when I stay in a hotel, I bring my own sheets and pillowcase, so like I don't really worry about that. So for me, Airbnb is one of the cheapest ways to go. So that's typically what I do whenever I travel as well. Looking for flights now. How to travel cheap looking for flights. First of all, Skyscanner. A lot of people have heard about this. Skyscanner is my best friend. Almost all of my flights are booked through Skyscanner. Google Flight is the next best thing, but Skyscanner is my number one. And then with Skyscanner, you can register for flight alerts. So if a flight goes up, if the price of a flight goes up or down, it alerts you so that you can jump on it, I guess, the first minute it drops or something like that. So I have a flight that I have alerts for a flight I'm supposed to be booking. The trip is in July, and I signed up for price alerts from, let's say, October. So I get notified I think it's every week, if flights, like if the price stayed the same, if the prices went up, if the prices went down. That way I know on average how much I'm going to be paying for that flight. So at least I know that ahead of time. So Skyscanner is my best friend. And as well, what I do is to figure out if what I'm paying is a good price for the flight. Skyscanner has this option where you can search for the cheapest month, and it'll automatically go to what month is the cheapest. So I look for what the flights are, and like the price of the flights in that cheapest month, and then the month that I actually want to go, if it's not during that month, I'll see what the prices are then. That way I know if I'm getting a deal, if I'm paying too much or anything like that. So that's why Skyscanner is kind of my favorite. I love it. It's just the best thing ever. And also they have an app as well. I don't really use the app, I go on the website, but they have an app as well for the people that are app people. And the next best thing I would say is Google Flights, only because with Skyscanner, they kind of give you the airline. Like, there's multiple airlines you can choose from, multiple flight options, of course. But with Google Flights, you can go on one airline there and you can choose a different airline back. Like, you get to choose your price point for each flight. You get to manually choose the time you want to leave. So I guess with Google Flights, you can customize it better to how you want your flights to be. So that's why I would say Google Flights is the next best thing as well. So my trip to St. Lucia I booked on Google Flights, but like all my flights to Asia, I booked through Skyscanner. So I kind of use both interchangeably depending on which one's cheaper, which one would be more beneficial to me. And also, I'm part of travel groups. So not many people use Facebook, but I'm still on Facebook only solely for the point of travel groups. So I'm in, I think, 3 travel groups. So what they do is whenever they get a cheap flight, they'll say the stuff that they did in each location. They'll say where they stayed, where they booked their flights, and they also post if there's flight errors, so they got something really cheap, anything like that, anything travel related. You can ask questions, people will tell you where to go, things to do, things to see, everything like that. So I'm in Facebook travel groups because that's also where I found a lot of the apps and the stuff that I use, these Facebook travel groups. So I think they're really convenient. And as well, for you people that don't like to travel solo but don't have friends that like to travel, Facebook groups are the one for you. A lot of them, they have people that are offering, hey, I'm going here this time period, can you meet up with me? Or who wants to travel solo? Who's planning a trip to go to this place? Or it's my birthday this time, I'm going here, who wants to come? So I feel like there's people that are solo travelers or don't have anyone to go with, so that's preventing them from traveling. I would advise to look for Facebook for travel groups because it would be beneficial for you. I don't use them to travel with anyone because I always have someone to travel with, but I use them more for informative purposes. So that's where I get some of my cheap travels from as well. Another way I find cheap travel actually is through some of you who know me know someone named Myrna. So Myrna has a travel blog called Impatient Tourist. I'll include the link below in the bio. So I find cheap travel deals through her as well. My St. Lucia trip, I actually booked way back in March from her. I'm subscribed to her, I guess it's travel blogs. So like every day she'll send out a trip. So like you get it to your email like every day, and it'll be like a trip if you want to go to this destination for this many people for during this time period. She sends a flight, she sends Airbnb options, everything like that. So I was just randomly chilling in my bed, and then I got one of these emails from Myrna, and it was mentioning St. Lucia, mentioning New Year's Eve. So I booked my flight from there. So that's also how I find cheap travel, because she's a travel fanatic and she always likes to go for cheap as well. So Myrna, Impatient Tourist, her blog, that's how I find my cheap travel deals as well. Points, credit card points. So all of my credit cards that I have points on them. You accumulate points. One of them is Air Miles, one of them is Scotiabank. So I use my points for travel as well. So I use my points to pay for my trip to my flight from Vegas to Bahamas. I think I paid $20 out of pocket for the flight, as opposed to I think $400, $500, whatever. My point is that I paid $20 for a flight I wasn't supposed to. It was supposed to be much more expensive. Take advantage of points if you can. There's also Air Miles, there's also Airplan. You don't have to get a credit card associated with it. You can just get the card itself. Like I know for Shell gas, you get Air Miles points. I just have a card for it. You accumulate points faster. So that's another way to travel cheap. One of the last things that I will recommend for how to find, the first question that I'm still on, how to find cheap travel, would be something called Secret Flyer Deals. They have an app, they have a website, they also have a Twitter page. I don't have Twitter, so I just have the app. I'm subscribed to deals where every single time there's a flight deal, they'll just send it out. So it'll be from, you get to choose where you want it to be from. I have from everywhere in the States and everywhere in Canada, flights to go anywhere, so that if I see a cheap flight that's somewhere that I want to go, I can book it immediately, and I know the price that I'm getting it for, and it's relatively cheap. So I'm subscribed to that as well. So that's also how you're able to get travel cheap. So another question that I get is, how do you know or plan what to do there? So usually before I go on my trips, I have a bit of an idea, like it's either known for something or I have a bit of an idea of what I want to do when I get there, like the purpose of the trip or something like that. So what I usually do is I'll look on, like, I think it's Viator or Viator, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but it's Viator. So I usually go on that website or TripAdvisor, and like I'll search the location that I'm going to. It'll give you like ideas of things to do there, what's popular, activities, and you can even book it there as well. So that's one of the main things that I go to for activities. Like when I went to Iceland, when I'm going to St. Lucia, like I book almost all my activities through there. And there's an app called VisitACity. It's all one word, called VisitACity. You actually get to choose the city that you're going to, and it'll list like a whole bunch of like what's popular, things to do on that app. So that app is actually very good. I used that when I went to New York. So that app is actually a really good app for whatever city you want to go to. If you don't want to do a lot of research, anything like that, that actually comes in handy a lot. And as I mentioned, I am part of Facebook groups. So when people go on their trips, they say what they do. I just search in the Facebook group where I'm going, and then everything people do or what they post about their trip, I can see it there, and I'd be like, hey, that looks good, I want to do that. Screenshot, and then I save it, and then I figure out how I can do it on my trip as well, how I can incorporate that to my trip. So almost always I have an itinerary before I go on the trip. That way you can maximize the amount of time that you have. Like let's say it's a layover, it's only for like 6 hours. You can maximize the amount of time that you have in a specific location. Each day you do the most that you can do. So I almost always have an itinerary before I go. Like I write out each day, the timing, everything like that. Airbnb experiences and WeWork to travel. So Airbnb experiences is no matter where you are, at the bottom of either the Airbnb website or the app, it says Airbnb experiences, and it'll say a bunch of different stuff that you can do in that location. I use that as well in order to book experiences, I guess you could say. So I use that as well. And as well, WeWork to travel, it's kind of dedicated to Black people, sorry, but WeWorkToTravel.com. You type in the city that you're going to, and then it just lists everything that you, like what people do on their trip there. Like when I went to Thailand, I ended up swimming with elephants. That's how I found it, through that website actually. So that's another website that actually does come in handy. This is gonna wrap up my first vlog, just addressing one of the main questions that I get through this channel. You can either find me doing sit downs like this, answering many questions that I get, or it's just gonna be a bunch of vlogs with my travels and things that I do. Hope you enjoy. Don't forget to like and subscribe.